Factoring trinomials. Trinomials can factor into two binomials. Multiply or expand two binomials, creating a trinomial. This represents a product as a sum using the FOIL method. FOIL is first, outer, inner, last. So we multiply the first numbers together. A times A gives us A squared. Then outer, the two outer numbers. A times 2 gives us 2A. I for inner, the inner numbers. 1 times A is A. And then the last numbers. 1 times 2 gives us 2. Then we can combine these two like terms. 2A plus A is 3A. So we get A squared plus 3A plus 2. An expansion as below can be factored to represent a sum as a product. So we have B squared plus 4B plus 3. We can rearrange this. We can split up 4B into 3B plus B. Then we can actually factor a B out of just these two terms here. And then look, we can write two binomials, B plus 3 and B plus 1. B times B is B squared, B times 3 is 3B, B times 1 is B, 1 times 3 is 3. So we can rewrite this as two binomials multiplied together. The general expression for a quadratic trinomial is ax squared plus bx plus c. When the leading coefficient a is equal to 1, the expression becomes x squared plus bx plus c. To factor this equation, we need the integer factors of c to add up to b. Here's an example. X squared plus 5x plus 6. To start factoring, we need the factors of 6, so numbers that multiply together to equal 6, that also add up to positive 5. Look for paired factors of 6 that also add to 5. So here are all of the factors of positive 6. Right? 1 times 6, negative 1 times negative 6, 2 times 3, and negative 2 times negative 3. What do these add up to? So 1 plus 6 is 7. Negative 1 minus 6 is negative 7. 2 plus 3 is 5. Aha, there's our winner there. Negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. So we're looking for this set here. The two factors that add to 5 are then used in the binomials. So look, x plus 2, x plus 3 is the factored form of this trinomial. Notice how when x squared plus 5x plus 6 was factored to x plus 2 times x plus 3, both signs in the binomial are positives. This will always be true when the trinomial has both a positive b value, here plus 5, and a positive c value, 6. But what would happen if the signs were different, like in these cases? Here we have a negative sign in front of the 5, here we have a negative sign in front of the 6, and here we have a negative sign in front of both the 5 and the 6. We can see that a pattern occurs. When b is negative, but c is positive, both binomials will have minus signs because the numbers have to add up to a negative number but multiply together to a positive number. When b is positive and c is negative, each binomial will have a different sign, with the larger factor being positive. So here we have x squared plus 5x minus 6. One of them has to be negative because they multiply together to a negative number. But the bigger number will be positive because when we FOIL this out, we get x squared plus 6x minus x, 1x, minus 6. These will add together to positive 5x. So see, the larger coefficient, the larger number here, has to be positive in order for that middle term to be positive. However, down here, when both b and c are negative, each binomial will have a different sign, and the smaller factor will be the positive one, because then these are going to switch signs, and this will be negative 6x. So then when you add them together, negative 6x to positive x, you'll end up with a negative 5x. Factor x squared minus 7x plus 6 to express as the product of two binomials. First, we look at all of the paired factors of positive 6, and we had this table from before. Which ones of these, when added together, equal negative 7? Well, this row right here, -1 and -6. Therefore, our binomials will look like this, x minus 1 and x minus 6. Factor x squared minus x minus 20 to express as the product of two binomials. Look for paired factors of -20 that add to -1. So -20 and +1, no, they add to -19. -10 and 2, they add to -8. But look at here, -5 and 4. They multiply together to -20, but they add together to -1. Therefore, the binomials will look like this, x plus 4 times x minus 5. Factor these polynomials. X squared minus 4x plus 3. All right, so because the coefficient of x squared is 1, I know we're going to start out like this. Now, this is positive. C is a positive number, but B is negative, which means there's going to be two negative signs because they have to cancel out when they multiply. But we need, so what are the factors of 3? 3 and 1. So which one goes where? Doesn't matter because you can see that they're going to multiply together to +3, and then we're going to have -3x plus -x, so they're going to add together to -4x. So it doesn't matter. They both have negative signs. All right, here we write our form. There's two positive signs here, which means there are going to be two plus signs here. Now, what are the factors of 10 that add to 7? 5 and 2. And once again, it doesn't matter which one goes where. All right, here we have x and x. Negative here, but positive here means they're both going to be negative. All right, so what are the factors of 20 that would add up to -12? So 10 and 2. Okay, so 10 and 2, and it doesn't matter where they go. Either way is fine. 2 and 10, 10 and 2, doesn't matter. All right, finally, we have a negative number here, which means one of these is going to be positive, the other's negative, which means it does matter where we put the factors. All right, so what numbers multiply together to 20 but add to 8? Okay, and one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. So this is the hardest type to factor. So we have 4 and 5, but there's no combination of one positive and one negative here that are going to add to 8. We have 10 and 2, which could add to 8. If 10 was positive and 2 is negative, then they're going to multiply together to -20 and they're going to add together to +8. So we make sure that the 10 goes next to the plus sign and the 2 goes next to the negative sign. All right, and here are all of our answers. Factor these polynomials. All right, we're starting with x and x. All right, this number's positive, but this number's negative, which means they both are going to have negative signs. What are the factors of 8? We have 8 and 1, 4 and 2. It's definitely going to be 8 and 1, right? Because they have to add up to 9. And it doesn't matter where each number goes because they're both negative signs. So -8 times -1 is +8. -8x plus -1x does add up to -9x. All right, x and x. We have a positive number here and there, which means we have two plus signs. Factors of 12 that add up to 8, 6 and 2. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 plus 2 is 8. All right, x and x. They're both plus signs, so these are both plus signs. Factors of 12 that add up to 7, 3 and 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. 3 plus 4 is 7. All right, here we start with our x and x. Minus sign here, which means that we have one of each sign. And this is going to be negative. So we need factors of 12 that add up to -4. All right, so let's see. What are some factors of 12? We have 3 and 4, but there's no combination of positive and negative 3 and 4 that are going to add to -4. We have 6 and 2. There we go. Okay, so if we want -4, it means the larger number has to be negative. So -6 times 2 is -12. -6x plus 2x is -4x. So the negative sign needs to be in front of the 6, positive sign in front of the 2. And here are all of the answers. Not all polynomials are in the form x squared plus bx plus c. Some are in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Other polynomials aren't even trinomials. They can have 4 or more terms or higher degrees. These are also factorable, but out of the scope of this course. However, let's examine what happens when we have ax squared plus bx plus c where a is not 1, by factoring trinomials where a is a prime number. When factoring x squared plus bx plus c, the x squared is simple because it factors to x and x in the binomials. With the form ax squared plus bx plus c, factoring ax squared involves finding factors of a as well, where ax times bx, a times b is going to equal the coefficient capital A. This also affects the factors for the second term in each binomial. Let's factor 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. First, we're going to start by setting up our parentheses and determining the signs. Since both of these signs are plus signs, these are also going to be plus signs. Next, factor 2x squared. That's easy. 2 times 1 gives us 2, so 2x times x is 2x squared. This is where it gets tricky. We need to guess 2 factors for c, which is the number 3, but they're not going to add up to 5 like they did before. Let's start with 1 and 3. Now, check to see if the factors are correct by finding the sum of the product of the inside terms and the product of the outside terms. So we do FOIL to see if we're right. So 2x times x is 2x squared plus 2x times 3, which is 6x, plus 1 times x, which is x, plus 3. Does 6x plus x equal 5x? If it does, then we're done. We guessed correctly. However, it doesn't. Therefore, we need to try switching the factors or finding new ones. After switching the factors around and then doing FOIL again, we see that we got it correct. So yes, the trinomial 2x squared plus 5x plus 3 can be rewritten as 2x plus 3 times x plus 1. Factor 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. All right, so first we write out our parentheses. It's a 2 in the front of x squared, so therefore we're going to have 2x and x. Next, let's find some factors of 6 and test them out. We'll put 1 here and 6 there. Does 1x plus 12x equal 7x? No. Let's try again. Let's try new factors. So we'll put 3 here and 2 there. Does 4x plus 3x equal 7x? Yes. Therefore, the factored form is 2x plus 3 times x plus 2. Factor 3x squared minus 2x minus 5. First, factor the leading term and set up the binomials. 3x squared becomes 3x times x. Next, find the factors of 5 and test them. 5 only has 2 factors, 1 and 5. So we don't know which one's going to be positive and negative yet. So let's just try it out this way and see if we get it right. 3x times 5 is 15x minus 1x. Does that equal negative 2x? No, it doesn't. So let's switch the factors around. All right, so we switched the numbers, we didn't switch the signs. And we see that we do get negative 2x. The trinomial 3x squared minus 2x minus 5 factors to be 3x minus 5 times x plus 1. Now, if we had switched the numbers, but they still didn't add up to negative 2x, it means we need to then switch the signs around. Put a negative sign over here and a plus sign over here. Then try those factors again. Summary of factoring. To factor a polynomial, first factor out the greatest common factor. If there's 2 terms, use difference of squares. If there's 3 terms, it might be a perfect square trinomial. Otherwise, factor the trinomial. If there's 4 terms, it is out of the scope of this class. Check each factor to see if it can be factored again. If a polynomial cannot be factored, then it is called a prime polynomial.